All that Jeff Lebby smoke coming out of Starkville, Mississippi apparently has a fire fueling it. Let's talk about it now. Let's go! Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you're definitely in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you don't miss one moment of Hall of Fame College Football. Breaking news out of Starkville, Mississippi tonight. Yahoo Sports, along with other outlets now, are reporting that Jeff Lebby, offensive coordinator of the Oklahoma Sooners for the past 2 seasons, will be the next head coach of the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Probably one of the worst kept secrets of the past couple of weeks. It hadn't hit huge just yet, but you could hear it kind of heating up throughout the past week as Oklahoma prepared for its Big 12 finale on Friday against the TCU Horned Frogs. After the game, Lebby said that he kind of sidestepped the question whenever asked about it. That kind of just fueled speculation even more. And then, of course, today we are starting to hear that the deal isn't quite finished yet as far as dotting the I's, crossing the T's on his contract. Language, probably numbers, all that kind of stuff. But he is putting a potential coaching staff together, informing recruits, I would imagine, and preparing to take the job at Mississippi State after all. I guess the question would be, why did it come together so quickly after the games got over with on Saturday? Well, my guess is that when you started seeing some of the other jobs popping open, Jonathan Smith taking the job at Michigan State, which happened this morning as the games got underway, that, I mean, obviously leads to some openings that if you're Mississippi State, you don't really want to screw around with it a whole lot more other than that. Right. That is, although Oregon State is without a conference pretty much at this point, they still are members of the Pac-12 conference. That's really a Pac-2 conference. That is a solid program and possibly one that you would see becoming a Power 5 school as well. Now, is it an SEC school? No, but it's arguable whether or not some coaches might take one over the other, right? I'm not sure that I really expected this so much, except for obviously there's some obvious reasons why you would see this connection coming as far as connections to Oklahoma and the Mississippi State job. That, of course, his connection is through Zach Selman, who previously worked as assistant coordinator of athletics under Joe Castiglione at OU, and he helped secure Brent Venables and Jeff Lebby once Lincoln Riley left the school in November of 2021. According to the Clarion Ledger, many at OU were expecting Lebby to be a candidate because of his relationship with Selman, along with his history of coaching in the SEC. His most recent job having been as offensive coordinator at Mississippi under Lane Kiffin. This probably should not come as a surprise to many, and honestly, it may be coming as a welcome news to a lot of folks who are fans of the Oklahoma Sooners, even though, as we've talked about, Lebby led one of the top scoring offenses in the country and top overall offenses in the Big 12. They were number 4 in scoring at just over 43 points per game in the country. They also were number one in the Big 12 in both passing yardage and total offense at 500 yards a game, just over 300 yards per game passing for the Sooners this season. Last season, they were the number 13 total offense in the country during Oklahoma's 6 and 7 season. So clearly you could see Jeff Lebby's name kind of going out there as one of the better coordinators, possible head coaches leading up after that. What are my thoughts of it? I don't necessarily think it was the greatest thing in the world for him to leave at this point. I definitely understand him taking the job. I'm not positive that I think that Mississippi State is the best job out there that he possibly could have gotten. I think it's a tough place to recruit, tough place to compete in the SEC when you are 30 minutes away from Tuscaloosa and, not about the same amount away from Oxford, maybe a little further away from Oxford and Ole Miss, which you have Lane Kiffin there. Tough place to go and compete. That being said, if you can go in there and average even 7 or 8 wins, I think that you can upgrade yourself in the future. And there's a possibility that he could possibly do that. The other thing I would say is that you never really do want to take away an opportunity like this for a coach like Jeff Lebby. They don't come along often, a job in the SEC, period. So good for him. I know that he did obviously feel a little bit spurned when he didn't get the job at UCF a couple of years ago. That, of course, has also led to Dillon Gabriel leaving the program as well. Then ending up at Oklahoma, where he would run the offense for the past 2 seasons for Lebby. The question is now, what players go with Jeff Lebby to Starkville? And that's a good question that we're going to kind of dive into in the morning. I'm planning on doing a live stream at 10 a.m. Eastern time, which would be 9 Central. Most likely we will have a few other Oklahoma creators as guests, some national creators to kind of talk about this as well. And we'll kind of see what everybody's hearing in regards to some of these guys. Some of the obvious choices to go with Lebby to Starkville, Dillon Gabriel. He does have at least 1 more year in tow, and possibly as many as 2 years as a graduate assistant or as a graduate transfer, which he could do that and head to Starkville as well. My assumption is that one's probably going to go. But does Jackson Arnold follow in tow with him? Does the possibility of a recruit like Michael Hawkins and by extension Devon Mitchell, do they both go with Lebby? As some are speculating on Twitter right now. I've got my feelings about all of those things. We'll get into that a little bit in the morning. I just to let you know, I think Jackson Arnold stays. His father obviously was reached by a few different folks last night and is saying that it has no effect. And he's saying that it has no effect on Jackson, that he's an Oklahoma guy. He won't be going with them. I tend to believe that Michael Hawkins may not be going with him either, but there's at least some speculation out there that he could, right? If he does, I would be concerned about Devon Mitchell. Well, like I said, we'll get into some of that as well tomorrow. Some of the other things we'll talk about in the morning as well would be what coaches could possibly be headed off to Starkville to take on possible coordinator roles, etc., for the Bulldogs and Jeff. My guess is Joe John Finley's name is out there. We've known quite a bit about that. There's a possibility that he could definitely be following Jeff Lebby to Oklahoma. You've heard names like, anybody who's on that offensive staff is really up for grabs, I would think. But I also believe that a number of those guys would probably want to stay and be a part of the new offensive staff, which could already kind of be in place when you start talking about guys like Seth Littrell, obviously Emmett Jones and Matt Wells being part of the picture there they're already on staff. Obviously, Emmett Jones is the wide receiver coach that was hired in this past season. You have Seth Luttrell and Matt Wells as already they're on staff as analysts, but have, they have a good track record of leading offenses already. Those are possibilities. There are other names out there that are very intriguing as well. Most notably, Sean Lewis from Colorado, who was kind of unceremoniously taking play calling away from him throughout the season, or after, during the season at Colorado by Coach Deion Sanders. I think his name is a hot one out there, and will be getting a lot of calls as he, takes off. I'm sure this week. That's almost for sure that he's out of Colorado. I wouldn't suspect that he'll be around for much longer. There's a lot of jobs though that I could see him getting as well. Most notably, maybe like Notre Dame. You could see possibly places like Texas A&M, who, although originally they were saying Mark Stoops was taking the position at Texas A&M, the Kentucky head coach. He came out just about an hour ago saying that that's not going to happen after all. We'll get into some of that as well, I think, this morning when we get to talking about it. In the end, I just wanted to jump in here, kind of update everybody on what we know as of yet. We will definitely be updating you as we get information from some of our sources around the country, plus, the other creators here that we work with a lot. Guys like, Jay on Unfair Sports, Ty at Around the Table Sports. There's, the beauty of this deal here at YouTube is that we have a lot of guys that we work closely with and help each other get a lot of this information out. Obviously, Coach I, some of those other guys from the East Coast, talking to guys like Shelton and the Professor from High Top Sports. They probably have they could end up with some information as well. Not to mention some of the other reporters that I knew in my time in newspapers. As we get information, we will be sure to pass it on to you right here on Hall of Fame College Football. So be sure to hit that bell to get all the notifications so you know when we know what's going on out there. But take a look at, as of right now, we're going to go live at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 9 Central this morning, and probably have some guests on there at that time to break down any new information that we may have. Again, Jeff Lebby reportedly off to Starkville to be head coach at Mississippi State. A lot of things could happen when it comes to the Oklahoma Sooners, both in recruiting, current players on the offensive side of the football there, and some of the staff members as well. So stick close by. Make sure you hit that notification button, and we will talk to you soon.